Well, I had to title the sermon, Till I'm Blue in the Face. And I want to tell you how I started getting here, first of all, because it is quite interesting. See, sometimes you're asked to do a children's sermon when you think it's already been done. And last week, Charmy had this beautiful church cookie, happy birthday cookie, at the 8:30 service. And goodness, I see my reflection in my iPad, and it's really kind of hideous. So, well, got used to it, It's the first time, but, it's the first time with blue, but, you got used to my face. So, about, how we have the countdown on the screen? We have about 30 seconds, and she goes, oh, by the way, Hal, there is no children's sermon for this service. I was wondering if you could come up with something. And me being super pastor guy, I decided I can do this. I'm the super associate pastor. I may have been, wearing that shirt underneath. I don't know. And so I decided that I would do this. And so I arranged the children facing the congregation, and I said, okay, kids, let me tell you about today is Pentecost, and I want you to know that this is the day when, the church was born, because people were feeling the Holy Spirit, and this is great and wonderful, and aren't we going to sing Happy Birthday together? And they said, no. Every single one of them, to the last man, no way, we're not doing it. And I was like, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I need to do something. And the first thing, honestly, that came to my head was a conversation that I had with Eric Q, who is a roommate of mine at Perkins, and he says, sometimes you have to encourage the children by telling them that you have some investment too, and saying, I'll do what you need me to do. So I offered to shave my head one year, is what he told me. And I thought, man, I could tell them I'll shave my head. That would be, oh no. And then suddenly I had visions of Uncle Fester from the Addams Family preaching in front of a congregation, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So the words that came out of my mouth were, I will paint my face blue if you sing Happy Birthday to the church. And I thought, man, I'm safe because these kids hate to sing. I know they hate to sing. And wouldn't you know it, every single one of those stinkers sang like a lark. Every single one. And I even ran to the back of the sanctuary and said, I can't hear you, and darn it, they got louder. Well, I mean, and so I realized, this is an opportunity to talk about things. I got to save this because, I'm super associate pastor. I'm going to save this. And I think what I'll do is I'll paint my face blue because I got to keep my word. And I'll title my sermon, Till I'm Blue in the Face. And I don't know what I'm going to do after that. So I sat down and I worked out a sermon. And I got to tell you, I spent a little bit of time on this. A little bit of time. No, I spent quite a bit of time on this. The truth of the matter is it's a little short, though. So if you want to be out of here before the Episcopalians, today's your day. If you want to be to lunch and in line at Luby's, you're gonna make it. And you can give the Episcopalians, one of those, ha. So it made me think, there are places in our lives where we feel like we've just spoken until we're blue in the face. And parents say things until they're blue in the face. Cherie, you're going to get this. Oh, you already do that. You have your elder son, don't you? And you say things like, pick up your clothes. Right? Or wash behind your ears. Right? Or brush your teeth. Right? These are things that parents say until they're blue in the face. And how many of you have things that you say to your spouse until you're blue in the face? Brush your teeth. No. Pick up your clothes. Wash behind your ears. No, how about, did you put that in the checkbook? Don't spend money on that. Is your mother-in-law coming over again? That's her, not me. I gotta tell you, she says that. She's not here, and I don't want to hear all of this coming back and get me later, so I'll confess, that's me. Put that away, pick that up. These are all things that we say until we're blue in the face. And so then I had to wonder, are there instances in the Bible where the Bible is talking to us until we're blue in the face? And so that's when I picked the scripture of Paul preaching all night long, on it went, until God fell out of the window. And it's kind of a funny story in a way. You know, it's a miracle story, but it's also kind of a humor. And a lot of people don't really see humor in the Bible. But that's okay. God still laughs at them too. Probably going to be in trouble for that comment later. I think, more importantly, that Paul felt like he was blue in the face a lot. And you see this in his, in some of his letters sometimes. Let me read to you from Galatians. This is an appropriate translation from the Complete Jewish Bible. I'm going to clear my throat because this is eloquently put. You stupid Galatians! Who's put you under a spell? Before your very eyes, Yeshua, the Messiah, was clearly portrayed as having been put to death as a criminal. I want to know from you just this one thing. Did you receive the Spirit by legalistic observance of Torah commands, or by trusting what you heard and being faithful to it? Are you that stupid? Having begun with the Spirit's power, do you think you can reach the goal under your own power? Do you think he got that blue-in-the-face feeling right there? I mean, seriously. I mean, if he's calling the Galatians stupid, and by the way, this is an accurate translation. A lot of translations don't give that feeling, right? But Paul was really trying to express himself here. So even Jesus felt like he had times where he was speaking until he was blue in the face. So here's one from Mark chapter 9. Someone from the crowd responded, "Teacher, I brought my son to you since he has a spirit that doesn't allow him to speak. Whenever it overpowers him, it throws him into a fit. He foams at the mouth and grinds his teeth and stiffens up. So I spoke to your disciples to see if they could throw it out, but they couldn't." And Jesus answered them, meaning the disciples, "You faithless generation, how long will I be with you? How long will I put up with you? Bring him to me." I think even Jesus got a little blue in the face. Is anyone catching the theme here, though? Because it's this theme is what makes preachers preach until they're blue in the face. You see, the theme, in a way, is the love of God and the faithfulness of God. Not the rules, not the stuff that we say, but the love of God. So I compiled a list of things that I think preachers need to preach until they're blue in the face. Here's the first one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. Love your neighbor as yourself. Everyone is your neighbor. Your life is more than just what our culture tells you. You are a spiritual creature. Time to be one. The church is not just a Rotary Club or an Elks Club or a building, but a gathering of a community of believers. All of these, I should have bullet pointed and put them in a PowerPoint. Here's the last one that I have. In the words of James, faith without works is dead. Every single one of these are things that preachers preach until they are blue in the face. But that's not the reason, and that's not the final thing that I want to preach about until I'm blue in the face. The very reason that I put this blue on is part of what I want to preach. You see, there's an associate pastor at a nearby church that told me once you play the fool, you can't go back. You see, he was up in the youth room, and they had asked him, invited him to dance, and he just couldn't bring himself to do it. He just couldn't envision himself stooping to dance with the youth. And they were all line dancing, and he just couldn't bring himself to do it because he couldn't see himself playing the fool. I intentionally put this blue on, and I intentionally am playing the fool today. Not because I want to have a good gag, although that's kind of fun too, but because I want to make a point. He was wrong. You see, in the act of putting yourself out in that way, in that act, you demonstrate your depth of belief in the person that you're attempting to have a relationship with. Every single one of those children that saw me put that blue face on and actually helped me do it, they knew that I loved them and that I was willing to follow through. It's in that depth of belief that people will hear. Not hear, but hear. And that's that problem with this is that people don't always hear because they can't hear. Goodness, this is great. This is great writing, don't you think? They need to hear. In our society today, things are politely watered down. And we're restrained by political correctness in some cases. And we're dampened by a society that wants to tell God what the norm is. And so I wanted the kids to see that I loved and believed in them, and I put the blue on my face. And I want you to, and I know a lot of you are out there thinking, big deal. He painted his face. He's taking it off now. What's the big deal? The big deal is, I'm the first adult to do that. Maybe for me it wasn't a big deal. Maybe for me it was just a little bit of blue paint. But for them it was a huge deal. So the point here is, get out of your car and feed the hungry. Get out of your house and build a shelter for the needy. And get out of these four walls of the church and make sure that our community knows that we're interested in loving them because we're willing to get out of what the norm is. We're willing to put on that blue face and maybe get embarrassed a little bit and maybe actually go out on a limb a little bit for once. Because otherwise society puts us in our place and says, don't you dare move. Don't you dare play the fool. Because if you do, everybody's going to laugh at you. And there were people here that laughed. And I mean laughed, not just had a good gag. Oh, look at that fool, they said. Oh, well. I know the secret to demonstrating love is to go out on a limb, and I guarantee those kids will. So put on that blue paint. And let our community know that we are interested in loving them, but not in a politely watered down sense. Not in a restrained political correctness sense. Not in a sense that's moderated by the status quo that makes us weaker for it. And never in a self-righteous sense. But in a deeply loving, radical way that says, I'm willing to play the fool to show you and you that I love you and I care about you. And after all of these last things, this is the last thing on the preacher's blue in the face list, is that we love because Christ first loved us. If you want to talk about radical love, somebody who played the fool. Is that blue in the face or what? Is that radical? He died on that cross for us, to show us radical love. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Father in heaven, we are graced by your love for us. We are sometimes stopped by our society's misunderstanding of what it means to be Christian. Father, watch over us and guide us and let us open our hearts to you in a way that is deeply radical, so that we can see and show